Hi, it's me, Kat, and today I'm going to be reading my paper entitled Evil and Redemption. Hold on, I should probably move the camera so I can Hannah Layson and Jules Law, author of the journal Victorians and the Hidden Self, asked the question, why was the idea of a hidden or double self so appealing to writers and readers of the late Victorian period? Two of the most powerful and controversial English novels of the time were Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray. Both are books of morals, or lack thereof, and novels show two sides of a person, the respectable and the lustful. However, the line between is blurred. From Victorian times to modern day, the concept of evil has changed drastically, and this can be seen in Stevenson's novel. Most people don't see Victorian London as the most morally righteous period. However, in some way or another, religion was the foundation of all morality. While Christianity was the most practiced religion, there were many different branches which caused tension when there was a difference in opinion. Many Victorian authors would debate the question of what makes people human. While there was an array of answers and ideas, most fell into 5 categories still debated today: subject, self, skin, senses, soul. However, there were more authors who tried to expand on the question by focusing on the subconscious, the ghost that dwells in each of us, and the interpretation of dreams. Both are trying to expose alternate personalities of people in the subconscious. And finally, we have the other half of the controversial duo of the late Victorian times, Oscar Wilde. Wilde was convicted as a sodomite. I actually don't know how to pronounce that, but that's what they were calling it. In 1895, and was given maximum sentence of the time, 2 years with hard labor, although the same-sex law intended to protect young women from prostitution was less than 10 years old. After conviction, Wilde wrote a long poem entitled The Ballad of Reading Gaol. This poem was a homage to a man convicted alongside him. Charles Thomas Wooldridge was executed from cutting the throat of his wife and whom he suspected of cheating. Wilde alludes to that throughout the poem, but the most telling part of what he himself thinks of evil was the following. Some kill their love when they are young, and some when they are old. Some strangle with the hands of lust, and some with the hands of gold. The kindest use a knife, because the dead soon do grow cold. Some love too little, some too long, some sell and others buy. Some do the deed with many tears, and some without a sigh. For each man kills the thing he loves, yet each man does not die. All men will do evil, and yet not all pay. In the final chapter of Robert Louis Stevenson's novel, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, readers get the full explanation as to what was happening the entire novel. Unfortunately, people get this clarity in a death letter written by Dr. Jekyll. He starts off by saying he feels he has 2 sides to himself, one seen as good and the other is bad. He describes the bad side as craving pleasure and very rebellious, even a bit dangerous. He finds an elixir that can separate the 2 sides so he can act as 2 different people, Jekyll and Hyde, avoiding consequence. The longer he does this, however, the harder it is to come back to his good side, Jekyll. His bad side, Hyde, gets more devious and, as the letter says, wicked, and ends with murder. Murder is considered one of the greater evils of society throughout time, and this may be a point of no return moment, as after he realizes what he did, he tries to stay Dr. Jekyll. However, he finds himself transforming into Hyde without the drug and at the randomest times, which the intervals in between start getting shorter. One can speculate that this is all symbolic, how people make excuses, or the drug, for minor misdeeds, and as time goes on, the actions get more foul until they reach the breaking point. At this point, one may realize what they do is truly evil and try to turn from their habits. This may become difficult as now they have screwed morals. This could be Jekyll transforming after being off the drug. The last little chunk of his letter leaves readers with a question. Half an hour from now, when I shall again and forever reinduce that hated personality, I know how I shall sit shuddering and weeping in my chair, or continue, with the most strained and fear-struck ecstasy of listening, to pace up and down this room, my last earthly refuge, and give ear to every sound of menace. Will Hyde die upon the scaffold, or will he find courage to release himself at the last moment? God knows, I am careless. This is my true hour of death, and what is to follow concerns other than myself. Here then, as I lay down the pen and proceed to seal up my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end. The question is, who did the killing? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If Jekyll killed himself and Hyde, would that be the redemption he had yearned for? Or if Hyde, for some unknown reason, killed himself, is that redemption? Today we have an idea of what Jekyll and Hyde represent. However, according to Ian Rankin, we have it all wrong. The notion of a Jekyll and Hyde character has become the lazy way of describing someone when they do something contrary to their normal nature. But that's not quite what Henry Jekyll does. Rather, he consciously searches for a chemical that will allow him to separate his two sides of his nature. The key word is consciously. Jekyll knows what he is doing, and it is not a sudden change of character. Singh and Subho take a more psychological approach to what the book says about Jekyll's nature and in turn evilness. The characters in the novel manifest characters of the structural theory of the mind. Mr. Hyde would seem easily recognizable as the ID seeking gratification, having an aggressive instinct, and having no moral or social mores that need be followed. He takes pleasure in violence, and similar to the death instinct, ultimately leads to his own destruction. Dr. Jekyll is then the ego. He is conscious and rational and dominated by social principles. This is derived from the concept of psychodynamic personalities. The theory says that everybody has three sides of to their personality. The ID, seen as the rebellious side or the bad side. The superego, who is the rule abider and good, and the ego, who is rational. Christianity takes a different side on evil and redemption. Romans 3:23 says, "All have sinned and fall short on the glory of God." Everyone has done something evil. However, there is redemption through God's Son, Jesus. As Scott Q states, to be redeemed, then, is to be forgiven, holy, justified, free, adopted, and reconciled. Most people will use the concept of evil as a case against God. Christians point out the world should not contain evil. However, people are given free will to do as they please. Many mistake this as a sign as God is not powerful and all-loving, but it is just the opposite. Christians call God the Father, and like a parent, God gives all a choice what to do with life. God knows that people may make mistakes and get hurt, but like a parent, the Father is there to help humanity pull through. People in a rebellion against God explains the evil acts of man, and the fallen creation explains disaster. Evil and redemption, two sides of the coin. While almost everybody can agree on some level there is evil, and not all believe in redemption. While both matters are left vague, much like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the world will never come to an agreement of the right or wrong answer to the question, what makes man evil, and is there redemption? Because evil comes in as many forms as there are people, and redemption is scarce. Evil is to stain good, and redemption is the act of trying to wash it out. The stain is still there, but effort was made. People must learn to forgive, if not for the wrongdoer, then themselves. Today's acts of ill will done to them leads to grudges, which will lead to more ill will. The cycle will continue forever if no one changes. So forgive.